Welcome back to Slightly Less Sick Riot. This is my build. I finished it. I wanted to make like an axe-wielding paladin type with regeneration and high defense. Here's the numbers, the stats, the spells. Go back and take a look at those absorption values and then watch them now. And that's with Holy Ground. And now we've got the defense tier in our Wondrous Physic, and then we've got Crab, and take a look at that damage negation. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. And Holy Ground is also, giving us regen the entire time we're standing in it. We've got other sources of regen from Bestial Vitality and the Talisman. We're using, like I said, axes. Oh, also Serpent God. The Serpent God Curve Sword also. It has HP gain on it, similar to Blasphemous Blade. So we have that as well for those really long, drawn-out invasions. We can be regenerating health. Also, of course, Prayerful Strike gives us 30% of our health when it hits. And that's the build. It's mostly strength with a little bit of faith so that we can cast some spells. I'll be honest, I don't use the spells all that much. They're just kind of fun to have on the build. And it's a paladin type, so, why not? I could have just gone insane with the strength on this build. Rather than give myself 30-something faith, I could have just gone, 12 faith and given myself, 60 or close to 70 strength. I really wanted that cannon shot right there. I wanted that point-blank cannon shot so bad. But, so the basis of the build is we put down the Holy Ground, and while we've got the Holy Ground, we have extra defense, so we take less damage, and we have other ways to increase our defense. You'll notice here at meta level, damage is still real. But with the reworking of Hyper Armor, when you take a swing with your weapon, if you're in Hyper Armor frames, you have damage reduction, which is another form of damage negation. So it all adds up. Now, I always make these builds, and so I always this is not some OP super destroyer. It's just a goofy, fun thing, It's just a fun, goofy thing. The build is fun to play through the game with. You can get all this stuff pretty quick if you decide to rush it. That axe that I'm using, the Duelist's Great Axe, you can only get that in Lindell, and then there's a Rotten variant. It's weaker, but it has Scarlet Rot buildup on it. You can get that from the Consecrated Snowfield. That one is a guaranteed drop. The other one, the regular Duelist Great Axe, is not a guaranteed drop. You have to farm it from one guy in Lindell. My point being, there's no real getting that fast. So before I had that axe, I had the Long Haft Axe, and you can get that in Castle Morn. There might be a spot you can get it earlier, and I just can't remember because my head is drunk with Theraflu and other, medicines and tinctures. But I got mine in Castle Morn, the Long Haft Axe. It's wielded by the Misbegotten, the big ones with the tails. And I think the fastest way to get it is go to the last Grace before the boss in Castle Morn. And there's just a little bridge. You just run across that bridge, and there's a guy with a Long Haft Axe, and there's a guy with a bow. Take care of both of those dudes, and, easy Long Haft Axe. And it honestly was not... that bad of a farm to get. I thought it would be much worse. It was not. I was using that axe. I've used a bunch of other axes. The Crescent Axe is one that everybody wanted on the build, including me. I love that axe. I just don't have 15 dex for it. I've said this before as well. For this build, and pretty much any strength build, you can always... you can always just sort of slap on Millicent's Prosthesis for 5 dex on a strength build, and that you could do that if you wanted to do that and make a build like this. You totally could. I just opted not to. But yeah. Anywho, another great thing about this build is the Ritual Sword Talisman and the Arrow Sting Talisman. I use both of those in these situations where I have the opportunity to just absolutely blast people with a cannon. I absolutely take advantage of that because it rules. The halberd that we just used, that's the Gargoyle Halberd. There's just no way to have a build in Elden Ring not have some kind of spear or halberd. Try not to use it, but if I'm like 1v1ing a heavy thrusting sword great shield, you know, you kind of don't leave me a lot of options. So you're getting the halberd. Sorry. But the build mainly focuses on axes and hammers, just paladin type weapons, you know. And I really like it. With the way that hyper armor works now, you know, you can make some trades that you probably would not have been smart to make in previous patches, but now you kind of can. You can't play stupid, right? But you can definitely take out dual straight swords if you play right. You can definitely take out dual spears if you play right. It's just a matter of not being dumb, but the hyper armor rework will legitimately help there. I've also got the Watchdog Greatsword on this build, which I love because it just looks awesome, but there's like no dex requirement for this thing. It's like 10 dex or 9 dex or something to use it. So it'll fit on pretty much any strength build, and I just love it. I love this, you know, this Greatsword. Also, it's kind of got the old pyramid head vibe, with the helmet and the Greatsword, and I dig that. Typically on this thing I keep Waves of Darkness, but on this build we're using Stamp, Launch, or whatever it's called, Uppercut, whatever it's called in this game. We're using that thing on it. Here we have the long half axe, and I know I'll show it off in some invasions. I think it actually gets showed off in this invasion. I'm using Sword Dance on it, and Sword Dance is great on the Crescent Axe, but so is Stormcaller. Both of those work really well on the Crescent Axe, but since I don't have the dex for the Crescent Axe, I went ahead and put Sword Dance on the long haft instead. But this thing also looks super badass if you use Prayerful Strike. I believe my opponent is also using Sword Dance in this invasion, and I can see his little lamp. I know he's right there at the wall waiting to, you know, try and sabotage me, ambush me. Sorry, again, I am on so much cold and flu medicine right now. But yeah, so we got like the dual halberds set up, and then we both dance into each other, and I've got more poise, so I get to finish and he doesn't. And you know, that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. And if you don't believe me, ask most of the women that you know. Okay, sorry. Oh, the Rusted Anchor. This thing is a great axe, but I think it has the moveset of a great hammer, or maybe it's a great hammer and it has the moveset of a great axe, or maybe that's another weapon. There's some weapon that is like a great hammer or axe, and it has the moveset of hammer or axe. Maybe it's the pickaxe that does that. I don't remember. Anyway, I have the thing here, and I've got Stormcaller on it. And if you're going to use Stormcaller, you know, put it on a big anchor, because that's fun. That's cool. So that's what I did. I've also got the Omen Killer, whatever this thing is, axe, and this thing's brutal. Oh, I guess I should mention, I started off Hero on this build, which may or may not be optimal. I don't know, with my stats. But if I decide to get rid of the Faith on this build, and go all in on just strength and endurance, then that would be optimal. That would be the optimal starting class. And, I might do that. I might, mess around and respec and try out this build with just pure strength. But in all honesty, it's pretty fun this way. Like I said, I don't get a lot of mileage out of the spells that I have, but I kind of like that, because I think people don't expect the spells. They see this build and they're like, oh, it's a strength build. And then they get hit with, Wrath of Gold or, the Crucible Tail. And, that catches them off guard. So, I don't use the spells often, but it is something that's nice to have as a sort of, surprise, on your build. But I still would be interested and will probably respec this build and try it out as just a pure, vigor, strength, endurance build. And in that instance, starting as a hero will be kind of nice, because some of these weapons that have innate bleed on them and stuff, the hero starts with 11 arcane. That's not much, but it's not nothing, And when I respec the build, should I decide to do that, I might, pump in a few extra points of arcane, just so stuff like, this cold Omen Killer Cleaver, whatever it's called, procs bleed more frequently, and now it's got bleed and frostbite, and that's pretty good. And also there are other weapons on this build that sort of have innate status effects on them as well. The Great Stars, I think, also have innate bleed. So that would be, just something for those weapons. And, so we've got the Sacrificial Axe. I always keep Gravitas on this thing, and on this build I've actually upgraded. But, I keep this on every build. And the reason I keep it on every build is because when you're invading, the host, the Phantom, they're running around, they're, killing stuff. If you've got the Sacrificial Axe equipped, you regain FP for that. And so it's just a free source of FP regen. And I always keep Gravitas on it, because I like to have something with Gravitas on my build. I use it a lot in PvE, because it's really good at getting those scarabs that run in a path. They're invisible, and they run in a path. Gravitas is really good at grabbing those dudes, and it just one-shots them, regardless of whether or not you've upgraded or not. So the Executioner Axe, I've got Kick on here, and the reason I have that is for the exact scenario you just saw take place, where this guy is using a great shield. I can just kick it, and the Executioner Axe has a bonus critical modifier, so if you backstab or post somebody, you can absolutely just, hit them with big damage. And if you've got the Dagger Talisman, even more so. I have it, but I don't have it equipped in that moment. But, yeah, so also they've improved Kick in 1.10. Kick actually true combos into some stuff now. It's not just, a little push. It actually has, some stagger, some stun to it. I don't know if it true combos into a Great Axe or not, but it does true combo into some stuff, which is pretty cool. Also, it's just a sort of nice little frame trap, kind of, where, if you land a kick clean, your opponent, might not know what their next move is, and it gives you time to try and figure out what their next move is going to be. So that's pretty cool. There's a backstab, but that guy didn't have a lot of health anyway. This blue wants to bow at me. I will never bow at a blue. Ever. Yeah, ever. But, I think... I mean, that's pretty much it. I was gonna say, bleed. Bleed. If you wanted to make a build like this, I think it would be worth getting that invigorating horn, the upgraded one. because this build, trying to just stand still and like declare a little battle zone, that falls apart the moment you have like people doing bleed damage. You just can't out negate that. You just can't out heal that with passive regen and stuff like that. It just doesn't work. And so, like, I haven't tested it, but it might be worth, like, playing around and seeing if that invigorating horn that increases your bleed resistance, you know, might help out here. I know Peeve has a character that was, like, it's changed now, but the orphan character, it was just built around having bleed resistance. And, you know, Peeve got his bleed resistance pretty high up. So it might be something that you can pull off. I will say, on the topic of talismans that I don't typically use, I have been using the Carrion Filigree on this build, which is not something I typically mess with. And the reason is Holy Ground is kind of expensive, and Prayerful Strike is kind of expensive on FP. And so if you have time to like use the Carrion Filigree, that's, you know, it's just a little less expensive to use those abilities right off the rip, which is kind of nice. I also have the Infinite FP flask on this build, as well as the defense that I talked about earlier. And the Infinite FP flask basically just allows me to sort of set up all the buffs and stuff without having to... that was a terrible timed Prayerful Strike. I got ahead of myself there. It's like you know your opponent's going to do something, and so you press the button to counter it, but you press the button before they ever did the thing. That's how it should look. But yeah, what was I talking about? I'm sorry, I'm drunk on cough medicine. Whatever I was talking about, you can be sure that it's real. Just block this. Just block it. Who cares? Everybody complains. Just block it. Just block it. Look at the damage. It's not damage. The Carrion Filigree, I remember talking about that. Anyway, I've been getting some use out of it. It's not bad. Look at these guys just lining up. Just lining up. Over and over again. Oh, the Infinite FP flask allows me to set up all the buffs right off the bat. I can't believe that didn't hit. I'm still upset about it. Just ridiculous. Everybody loves the Hand of Millennia now. Everybody loves it. And like again, it was just always this good. Look at all that damage that Dragon Breath did. Insane. Absolutely insane. Here he comes again. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. I love this build. I love this build. I hope the DLC adds like some crazy axe or hammer that I can like add to this build. You know, like that would be great. I would absolutely love that. Oh, I guess I haven't talked about this. I have the duelist hammers on the build. So for the duelist weapons, the axe and the hammer, there's a regular version, and then there's a version that has Scarlet Rot. The Scarlet Rot version will always be worse damage, right? Because, you know, the Rot, it would be overpowered if the Rot variant did as much damage and had Scarlet Rot. You might then say to yourself, well then what's the point in using the regular variant? And I would say, I don't know why Moonveil has a laser and Unsheath doesn't. I don't know the answer to that. But, yeah. The version with Scarlet Rot, the Rotted Duelist Hammer, I have Waves of Darkness on that. And then on this one, I obviously have Eruption, which I love. I love Eruption. It is not very good at all, but there are certain situations where it is, like, it just shines. It's just perfect. It's really good against, you know, up point-blank magic spam. It's really good against Morgoth's Ash of War. It's really good against, you know, stuff like that. Stuff where you just want to stand still and challenge it. It's almost like Stomp, but it feels more consistent. Like, it's really, really hard to break the hyper armor on Eruption. So the damage isn't great, but you know, maybe you could make the Eruption damage good. I don't think you could ever make it great, but like on a dedicated build, maybe. But my point is like, maybe the damage isn't great, but it's damage you know you're gonna get, right? And I do the same thing in fighting games. Like, I learn combos, right? And like, now I might learn the 12 hit combo. Okay? I might learn that. But I don't practice it as much as I practice the 6 hit combo. Because I can hit the 6 hit combo, right? Like, the 12 hit combo, you know, when you practice it and practice it and practice it and practice it, like, and it becomes second nature, great. But until that point, like, there's the combo you learn and there's the combo you can hit, right? And that's Eruption. Eruption is like, it's the Ash of War you can hit. And I like that about it. It's consistent. Bit of a side note, kind of a side note. Shout out to this Phantom for engaging me in bridge combat. If people wanted me to take Elden Ring PvP seriously, this would be the only place you would be allowed to do fights. And you would have 99 seconds to beat your opponent. And then the round would be up. Just a narrow, basically two-dimensional arena, you know? So I'll skip ahead a little bit here. This guy summoned his friend back and summoned a blue, and he hung around the Grace for a while. So I went ahead and went up the elevator and just waited for them to regroup and regather. One of the things I like about this build is it's pretty good about regrouping and regathering. I don't typically like the playstyle of trying to like out-survive gankers, you know, because they can just summon more people than you have anything you can do. But if there was one build that could deal with that, it would be this one. You know, this would be the build that could try it. And also, these guys were not like, you know, running the most efficient, badass stuff. Now, you know, like, they can still kill me. It's a wizard with Stars of Ruin and a curve sword. And, you know, whatever this other Phantom can do. And then whatever the host can do. Like, that's damage, right? Like, that was legitimate damage that he just did to me. So, it doesn't matter that they're not running the most efficient stuff. They can still win. But, you know, I'm not afraid to, like, goof off and have a little fun with these guys. Since they're, you know, kind of goofy as well. But, yeah, this is what I'm looking for. I wanna have a hyper armor fight with this host here. Come trade with me. Come make terrible financial decisions. I'll give you... I'll sell you some magic beans for that family cow that you've got there. And if you wanna hide behind a tree for a little bit, I'll sit here and that's fine. We'll just kind of take our time and slowly regain our health. This is also like the only build I have where I eat crab. Crab annoys me. I don't know why. I don't know why it annoys me, but it does. Like, I was never bothered by people eating green blossoms, you know? But for some reason, crab annoys me. I think what it is that most of the time you see people eat crab, they have no idea what they're doing. And since they have no idea what they're doing, it really feels like they've put the cart before the horse in terms of, like, anything PvP related. But eating crab is such a PvP-er thing to do. You know? Does that make sense? I recognize that it's my own dumb whatever bias, I guess. You know, like, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just trying to, like, make sense of why it annoys me. Because it does. When I see people eat crab. A lot of times I'll be hitting people with, like, pure fire damage, and then they'll eat crab. And I'm like, why? what is that going to do for you? You know, nothing. Or like pure magic damage or pure sacred damage, and they eat crab. And it's like, that's not going to help. It's the coated swords. It's, you know, it's Gavel of Haima. It's Giant's Flame Take Thee. There's no crab in the world that is going to make you take less, you know, fire damage or whatever. And you can tell if somebody eats the fireproof, whatever, liver, you know, but they just eat the crab. It's like, it's just such a thing to just eat crab. Like, that's what PvPers do, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to eat crab. And again, you know, like, I'm not trying to say that, like, I'm just telling you how I think. I'm not trying to tell you how I think is right. I know it's wrong. I'm sure they, you know, they're just like, I'm going to eat this crab and maybe take less damage, you know? But in my head, it's like, I don't know, so much more stupid than that. But, you know, that's a me problem, and I recognize that. Anyway, now back to these. This cave has become very popular for people at meta level to just sit in this cave and gank invaders. There's a few, but this is one of the ones that's kind of weird. I guess just because it's dark, you know, people like to gank in the dark caves, I guess. I always like to carry around some of those glowstones. Glowstones you can make with stuff that I don't think is necessary to make anything important. So I just always make as many glowstones as I can, and I'll just throw those around in those dark caves, you know, in the hopes that, like, even, you know, like, just being able to see would be some small benefit. Speaking of dark caves, I saw some people ganking in that very first cave. I was watching somebody stream. I forget who it was, but they were invading, and they were meta level, and people were ganking in that cave where Bach hangs out. And I thought that was silly. Like, of all the caves, I mean, but it was dark as hell, so I guess, you know, more power to them. I'm gonna start keeping glowstones, like, more readily available, so that if I spawn in to a dark cave, I can spend my free iframes as I spawn in on throwing down a glowstone, just so I can see better for the next, like, 3 minutes or whatever it is. That glowstone is underrated, I'm telling you. So, like, right off the bat, I took the Hand of Millennia, and now we've got Giant's Flame Take Thee, and Flame of the Fell God, and all these fire spells flying around. And then there's another guy, and we don't even know what he does. Oh, he's got Moog's Spear. This is a long invasion, so buckle up. But it's a pretty good one, I think. So we've got the defense. We've got all the defense that we can have. I think I forgot to eat a crab. We're gonna carry and retaliate. The sun right there. Notice we don't take a lot of damage. Thanks to, we might have eaten crab because we didn't take hardly any damage right there. Get our health back. Do some damage of our own. This Banished Knight just absolutely being garbage, as enemies are wont to do anytime you are, like, fighting co-opers. Like, every time you fight co-opers, the enemy AI is just suddenly garbage, you know? Like, about the only enemy AI that is consistent in its, like, how bad it'll whip your ass is weird stuff. Like land squirts, little flowers, you know, just stuff like that. I've talked about this before. The difference between, like, a strong enemy and a good enemy. And, like, a strong enemy is not necessarily a good enemy. If you're invading and you're like, okay, this enemy will help me out. Like, these Banished Knights can be pretty good. But, they just have a tendency to fall apart in the presence of co-opers. But a lot of enemies do that. It's like the AI just breaks. And it sort of, like, resets to neutral in between targets. So it's like it's targeting one person, and then someone else comes closer, and so it wants to target that person. But now it has to reset to neutral and then target that person. You know, there's no like motion of flow as the thing switches between targets. But this invasion right here is very nice in that it allows us to show off some of the regen potential of this build and sort of take our time. We have to be very careful here because the Hand of Millennia just does a ton of damage, and it has that true combo that everybody is loving right now, and like that's dangerous enough, but that had to be lag, right? That didn't hit that guy. Everybody's loving that Hand of Millennia right now. So okay, fair play. It's really not that big of a deal. Like, you can just poise through it and just absolutely smash people if you have like an Ash of War. But when you have two friends, that drastically changes, right? Because now it's not just the Hand of Millennia true comboing into the Hand of Millennia. It's the Hand of Millennia true comboing into the Hand of Millennia with a fireball or something. And like, that's just a death sentence. I don't care how much absorption you have. I don't care how much damage negation you have. I don't know what this third guy is doing, but the third guy is just sort of like chilling up there. And I thought you're going to see me like move my camera to the right, because I thought maybe there was a chance he was running back the opposite direction and he was going to come and approach from the other way, right there. But I was like, that would be a dumb thing to do, because I know there's at least one Banished Knight over there, and there might be another one. I don't remember. But, still, the paranoia's setting in. And I don't see him above me. I've looked up there a couple times, and I don't see him. So I don't know where he's at. And now they're kind of like flirting with the idea of going into the boss. And I'm just flirting with the idea of, shooting them. And there he goes. So this is what changes the dynamic of this entire invasion. So remember, we've got the kick on there, right? Oh yeah, baby. We kick that shield, it's over, and he knows it. So now he's panicking. Yeah, you better panic, buddy. Get in that corner. Since they've buffed kick in this patch, like the kick shenanigans from the old games, that's back on the menu, and I hope that karma sees me not taking advantage of it and pays me back by not making me deal with it. But that's the build, and that's the video, and that's the end of the invasion, and I appreciate you watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I know you did. So thank you. And I'll see you next time. Until then, later, y'all.